Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
I suck, you suck, I suck at Call of Duty.
Welcome to the Not Playing Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and today I'm joined by
Marcus Hurley
and
Will.
So yeah, we're back again because it's not E3, so this is not E3. I've already seen a lot of other outlets referring to it as not E3, so I'll be filing an injunction on that, I think. And but yeah, anyways, we've seen a few games been shown off across a variety of different showcases. So I think we're just going to go through what we've seen so far because we can probably ramble about that for a little while.
Yeah.
I guess the first of them to be shown off or announced was the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which looks like it's going to be set in medieval Britain or early Britain, and cast our player as someone of Viking heritage, I guess.
I think Dark Age is the term.
Yeah. So it seems like, as with the previous Assassin's Creed games, they like to paint a fairly broad canvas. So I think it's more the time period that's relevant than any necessary geographical area. Although I think it's going to be basically Northern Europe. I think because they've said it's going to be smaller, but then contradicting that, they've said that the map is slightly bigger than Odyssey, which was already fucking big, as it's pretty much the entirety of Greece. So, yeah.
Maybe you don't travel to every single part as an open world. In that way, it could be smaller but bigger.
So in Far Cry New Dawn, they introduced this mechanic where you had a general open world map, but then you went and saw this dude with a helicopter, and you'd go to these mini-maps for objectives, like maybe the Viking sacking of Paris by Ragnar Lodbrok in 700 and whatever. So they might not have Paris as part of the main map, but it might be, go and see Ulrich on the longboats, and he will sail you across and you'll appear on the Paris map. I can see that happening, and I think that'd be a really cool way to visit areas, so mini maps and one grand map.
Yeah. I mean, they've already got the foundations of a lot of these places in place already, haven't they? So
I don't think that Paris is the right Paris.
Well, no, but it's a good way to. They've got a Paris map that they've got out so many times. The Eagle Flight game in VR, I think, is based on a very rudimentary rendering of that same Paris map.
How bizarre for that French company, Ubisoft.
Yeah, I guess they're fairly familiar with that. But it looks cool. So the other thing about this that they've said is that there's going to be like a settlement that you have to kind of. A lot of it's going to kind of revolve around the concerns and maintenance of this settlement.
As long as you don't have to build it like in Fallout, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. I think that'd be an interesting thing, because you look at, like, even in the Viking show, you see Kattegat and the way that sort of expands into like this thriving sort of city over the seasons.
But maybe the settlement is the one that as history showed, when they first landed on the English shores, they were kind of, various things happened, and it showed in the Viking show they actually got a patch of land that was their own. So it wasn't
they made a deal, didn't they?
Or Jorvik that they took. It was a separate area they had.
Yeah, there was a deal, wasn't there? Stop sacking our cities and raping and pillaging.
We'll give you a nice
stop doing
allotment.
that, we'll give you a little bit of space there.
So I'm quite interested in the time period. So if I recall correctly, I'm fully expecting it to be set around the time of Ragnar Lodbrok, or Herod he was known, and we'll see his sons. Because it's quite interesting. The main character is called Ivor, which is spelt slightly differently to the one I'm familiar with, but one of Ragnar's sons was Ivar, the Boneless.
Yeah.
So there's
that's right,
parallels there, but it's at the time of King Alfred the Great.
Yep.
And it'd be quite interesting to see what other historical characters. I think you had Holy Roman emperors and things like that, so this could be quite interesting. There wasn't Charlemagne, no, he was before that time. But I think any Assassin's Creed, you meet these major characters from that period, and it'll be really quite interesting to see what they do along there.
Yeah.
I think they refer to Charlemagne, don't they?
I think Charlemagne was prior to that period.
Yeah, but they refer to it because
probably his legacy.
France is all about that and the doctrines of him and stuff like that and his way of ruling.
I missed that in the trailer.
Yeah, I didn't log that. But, apparently Shields are coming back, which is just as well, considering... And so is the Hidden Blade, yeah. You know what? I didn't notice that shields were absent from Odyssey until they mentioned it.
Well, you can't... shields aren't absent, but you can't wield a shield. There's a subtle difference there. You get a lot of Greek soldiers that you fight against with shields in Odyssey. It's just you don't happen to carry one.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was it. Because the thing was, I just assumed it was something that I hadn't done because I was so sort of channeling my upgrades into assassin stuff.
I would simply point out that a shield is a big, cumbersome object for an assassin to carry around. Yeah. So are some of the big, giant maces and things, but it's all about fluid motion. Now, I'm sure they'll still do that in this one, and they have to with that period of history and where it was. Yeah, they all had shields, but it's playing games with it.
It's the reason why it wasn't an item of choice in the previous ones, because they were going for the whole, hide amongst the crowd, leap into a bale of hay from 1,000,000 feet high.
Land on a shield.
If you've got a shield, you'll be surfing on it like Legolas, taking out people down the staircase. It's not quite the same game.
Yeah. No, but I mean, obviously, I'm still very deep into Odyssey, so I'm very interested in whatever they put out on that under that brand. Really, it's
you'll lap it up regardless. I will too.
Yeah, but they're saying it's not going to be quite as epic as Odyssey. I mean, Odyssey is almost like taking the piss epic. Like, I guess because I'm playing it with a lot of the extra content in it as well, which I've managed to get through. I'm getting through quite a bit of that now. But it does just seem exhaustively huge. Like I don't mind it not being that massive.
Yeah, smaller map, but as much content. No, it's a larger map, but it's about content. It's not about length to an extent. If it's well told, well paced, plenty to do, plenty to see, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And of course, I did wonder about like the lack of sort of water and stuff, but there's still a lot of like lakes and rivers and stuff in the UK, so I'm sure they'll be able to still have a significant amount of naval stuff if you like that sort of thing.
It won't be naval battles, would be my expectation. I think I mentioned this last time we talked, but the Vikings would use longboats mostly for transport. They didn't fight at sea. They used the longboats to sneak up rivers, etc., land and then fight.
It's going to be a sort of, was it Call of Duty 4 or something like that, where you go on the beach landing. I imagine that sort of thing when you get there. And it's, upon return trip, now that they know who you are.
Oh, we might get the Battle of Malden.
Oh.
The Battle of Malden, if it doesn't appear, it was one of the most fantastic, heroic failures. There's a statue up in Malden in Essex of... I can't remember if it was the Viking chief or the English lord, but essentially the Vikings landed their longboats in Malden and came ashore, but they'd kind of stranded themselves on an island and kind of messed it up, and so the local lord kind of went, "It's all right, lads, you know what, we're not going to attack you, we'll let you cross safely and we'll fight man to man, on firm ground." And they did that, and he got his arse handed to him. The famous Battle of Malden. And they've got to put that story in there somewhere.
They've got to.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of it is on our landmass. Then,
we might be able to stomp round in Essex.
Yeah, it was Wessex, wasn't it? The whole region, wasn't it? The southeast part, I think.
Head for Chelmsford Ford. Or Caferny Ford or something it was called.
Something like that.
Yeah, like a Roman name.
Mm. Well, Colchester was around in the Roman days, so pre-Viking, so that could, like I say, it'd be. I'm fascinated. So they've got all the Greek islands in Odyssey, and it feels pretty large. But how much of this island that we're on are they going to do? Are we going to be able to ride from Land's End to John O'Groats?
No.
Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, well, Chelmsford was around, wasn't it? It was Kaiser O'Magnus.
Yeah, Chelmsford 1, 2, 3.
That's it.
Yeah, it was like a
That was
stop-off point. It's like a little stop-off point on the way to Colchester. Or
Good knowledge there, Rob.
Colchester.
Mid-destination on the way to better places.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know my Roman history. We did a lot about school.
Well, that was why we still got the market, haven't we? Because it was a marketplace. It grew from there. And then it became an important bit, and it became a crossing point marketplace. And that was that.
Anyway, Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited.
It
It does lead us kind of on. So we saw Ubisoft put out that stream showing the trailer. They did this sort of countdown thing, didn't they? And then they showed the awesome trailer, and they kind of said, see more at the Microsoft conference in a couple of weeks' time. And the Microsoft, PR dude kind of went, oh yeah, come and see us for exclusive gameplay reveals. We're going to see Assassin's Creed gameplay. And well, I think we essentially, I mean, unless the gameplay has evolved so much beyond belief, what we got was another pre-rendered trailer cutscene.
It was in engine, but it was pre-rendered.
Yeah, that in gameplay.
No.
Not really, no.
Do you think we'll get Raven vision rather than Eagle vision?
In fact, it shows him with a crow on his shoulder. So I'm fully expecting that.
Because there's the person he sees who asks whether he's Odin, and then the Raven flies at him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally going to be
standard. It's a pretty standard staple of the game now, especially if they're going to.
Yeah, but it's always eagle has always been a theme, right, in the assassin side of things. They're changing the bird, but whenever they've leapt from the height, you always get that eagle screech as they dive down. Is it going to be a crow or an eagle? What do we think?
I'm pretty sure they said it was a raven.
Maybe you get the choice. Who can say?
He might shout Valhalla.
Maybe. It's used as a means of finding out where to go. Yeah. Very much so in Odyssey. You don't really get waypoints on a lot of the missions. So I'm sure if they're gonna carry that on, then there'll definitely be some sort of vision. It kind of works like a bit like a drone in their other games. It's like because you could go around and mark out all your targets and stuff. So
that kind of leads me on to a very similar feeling game, if you don't mind us shifting at this point. So Sony put out for their next exclusive, the one after The Last of Us 2, I believe, which is Ghost of Tsushima, and God, that looks rather beautiful.
It does.
We've got this year. We're going to have open world Vikings and assassins by the looks of it. Sorry, Vikings and samurai / ninja, depending on the path you take. I'm very happy right now, chaps.
I thought you would be, Will. I saw the video and I thought, Will's going to love this.
Oh God, both of them. I'm really glad there's a few months between. I might struggle. But I'm going to have to clear one before I can start the other. So Ghost of Tsushima is looking like a day one purchase for me. It felt very Odyssey in many ways, but I think it's got a lot of its own character in the gameplay.
Yeah, well, I think lockdown circumstances continuing. Last of Us 2 will easily be doable in a month. No problem.
I can't get excited for it. I've realised this. I think basically miserable, unfunny stories of pandemics probably just aren't my bag at the moment. I don't know why.
I'm just playing it because it's coming out, so I'm going to play it.
Well, if you finished Odyssey.
Well, I should have, I think, by then. I've done about 70 hours in it now. With The Last of Us, it's like, I'm just going to play it because I know that's all of the internet sphere that I follow. That's all anyone's going to be talking about for about a fortnight. So,
I got the remaster for it on PlayStation. I still haven't got around to playing it, but it's one of those games I know I will get round to. But like Will, I don't feel a lot of the initial pull to it. I know the storyline's meant to be amazing.
I've done
seen
the first
some friends
one
playing it, and it looks really good. And some parts of it are amazing, and And it's just that part where you look out and you see the giraffes walking and everything's overgrown. That shot was just simply stunning.
It's a superbly told story, I think, and I'm
I didn't know
expecting
that
more
was-
of the same.
I didn't know that was in it when I played it, so I got to enjoy it without being spoiled.
I wasn't spoiled. I was enjoying it round the friends. He was playing it, and we were both enjoying the game together. Sort of like pre-internet gaming.
See, I wouldn't be able to cope with that. I wouldn't want to do it. I need to play it myself.
Oh, that's a Rob checkpoint. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that's not a general gaming thing. But I was still blown away. But I don't find. I mean, after the story, I don't know. I can't get that excited about it.
I'm not that excited about it. I'm just like, I just accept
It's
that
the next
that is
new
what I will
game.
be.
Yeah.
That I will be playing that when it is released. I just accept it.
So what
It
else
is
have we
fixed.
seen coming up? There was another video
go
I think
to-
we haven't covered. Go on.
Well,
Sorry,
we haven't
a
really
bit more
covered Ghost of
Ghosts.
Tsushima in any major way. I think that's what
No.
was really on the cards for discussion, really, which was,
Yeah.
I mean, I love the look of it. To me, I just felt like, that looks pretty much like the game I'm playing right now, but set in Japan.
But the combat looks really cool. I think is the best
Well,
way
yeah,
to do
'cause
it. There's this wonderful timing bit
Yeah.
in the melee combat of they slash at you, and if you get that timing right,
Yeah.
you just come across as the badass
It's
samurai
like
you want to be.
It's like I kind of thought of it as Iaido, sort of that sword combat style, where it's minimal effort, minimal
The art of the
movement.
draw.
It's
Yeah.
literally, that's it. Or you can just go at them like a berserker samurai if you wanted to, because they did that too. It showed it wasn't all just about timing the buttons and stuff. You could just hack and slash at them if you wanted in full armour.
I'm also fascinated. So if you look at something like Dishonored, if you went around balls out killing people, you got high chaos. So if you kind of went face your enemy face to face, whereas you could do this sort of shadowy, stealthy assassin thing. Now in Ghost of Tsushima, that's almost reversed. So if you play as the ghost, the ninja type stealthy character using terror and fear, you build up a reputation and people will start being scared of you and run away. So it's actually the silent, stealthy one is the greater terror problem size than the honourable samurai fighter, which I find really interesting.
In some ways, but I get the feeling from it, though, that the more you prove yourself in combat, the more you'll develop a name, whereas one is an indomitable warrior, the samurai style, because there were people that seemed to be scared after you took out like 4 people in very little time. This guy was crapping himself, not wanted to actually attack you, which I thought was great anyway. But then I guess it depends what side. It's kind of like light and dark side. If you have the fear of this ninja or almost something supernatural, they're going to be crapping themselves before you even get to them. So you might give you that edge.
Yeah, it looks like there's a bit of a rep system going on,
So it's like if you land in front of them, they're going to go, "Oh shit, it's you! It's the rather than actually trying to kill you outright, they're going to be going, "Oh crap," which will give you that extra moment. The more you kill, that's what I seem to be seeing in some of the characters when he did the ghost element.
I think some of the other subtleties in there that I thought were rather wonderful is like if you see a bird flying along, follow it, and it will lead you to something interesting. Or if you follow a fox, it will take you to the temple. And even the guiding wind, that is so cool.
Yes.
I didn't really pick up on it first, but if you set a map marker, it won't just put an arrow on your screen or something on your mini map, but the wind direction will blow, and so you'll see the leaves drifting in the direction you want to go. I mean, how cool is that?
And you see the trails, and you keep calling it up, and then in the bit where you throw a leaf up as well, just to get an idea. That was so cool.
And again, my main bit of upset, I mean, this is running on a PS4 Pro, I think, what we saw, and it's beautiful. And I'm going to try and keep my new games to a minimum, because if a PS5 is out this year, I really want to experience stuff like that. I know it's end of this generation, it's going to be at its best, but I want to see it on the next. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm all for the non-artificial ways of guiding the player. And it's always difficult in open world games to do this. Most single player games these days tend to guide you using like lighting cues and stuff like that. So it looks like they're trying to sort of like take that approach and apply it to a massive open world, which is cool.
Make it feel natural.
It's more about keeping the immersion in the world rather than like a pillar of light shining out from a location or this marker off in the distance that you have to run to. I think it's more about you feeling a part of that world rather than a gamer looking in and going, these are the mechanics, which I think is a great way of doing it. Organic gaming, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, I mean, if they can achieve that, and because as great as Odyssey is, you do find yourself lost in menus and quest logs and stuff quite a bit. This one looks, like they're taking a bit of a more organic approach. I think it's just the way that Sucker Punch make games. I remember Infamous and stuff. You never really spent a lot of time tweaking stuff. It was all kind of quite quickly done.
I think the funny thing is I didn't enjoy Infamous, but I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, I definitely had enough of Infamous by the time I was probably about halfway through the second one. But, I mean, it was a concept that I think was fully explored in the first game and didn't really need to any more. But it sold a lot because it was an early game in the gen, so people went mad for it. I think that was PS3, wasn't it? The first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was ages ago. But anyway, the other thing about Tsushima is looks like a lot of the character customization progression looks quite gear based, which is interesting. Looks like
that seems to be the new way of doing it. It's skills and stuff are based on that. Your character maybe not necessarily leveling up so much, but it's what you have with you.
Acquiring better kit, It's worth saying, so that is out pretty soon, less than 2 months, 17th of July, and that is probably going to be, I reckon that's going to be my first major game purchase of this year. First, one that's coming. It's been dry, it's been a drought, and then we've got stuff coming, guys.
July? You say July?
17th.
I've only played one game from this year so far, and that's Ori, which I'm finding all right, but it's a very well made game, but it's not like my prime sort of game. I wish that was on Switch, really, because it's just a 2D platformer, and it can't. I find it cannot hold my attention for longer than about half an hour. But I still enjoy that half an hour. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not finished with it, but I just sort of start playing it, and I just get a bit restless. Whereas Odyssey, I can play for like 24 hours, probably.
Yeah, that's where your mind is at. But,
it's totally engrossing me. So yeah.
Can we quickly mention the foxes?
Yes.
How cool was that?
They're the one. They lead you to shrines which help you gain spirit power
and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of sub stuff going on that you'll have to discover. I'm sure there's a lot in the game that won't tell you, that you'll just have to find out. And it's just the fact that you can ignore all of this, like you're saying, the yellow bird that flies by. In any other game, that would just be, it's a bird. But it flies to a path, it lands by the guy, you speak to the guy, and he says there's a monster or something around the corner, and then you go, oh. And it's just such a nice way of doing it.
And hopefully this will encourage more of that kind of natural signposting.
Yeah.
Going forward, I'd love to see more of that sort of thing. If this works, I want to get my hands on.
Yeah.
I also appreciate that you can play the whole thing in black and white with
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, the Japanese cast as well. In the video where they switched to it, it was really good. It was really good. It was like the Japanese voice acting. It was really good. The English voice acting is really good. I like how it's something that isn't even an issue.
I can't
normally
decide.
One sounds hammier than the other.
I'm probably going to go with Japanese just because it probably teach me more than the 3 or 4 Japanese words I know.
But it was the natural way that the language was spoken, though. Like the woman's laughing and stuff and saying, and it's just the little bits like that, and it just felt like I was watching a film rather than actually watching the game, kind of thing. And I think if you achieve that, it's good.
I like that it's there, but I probably won't use it. I might maybe for a bit, but maybe on a replay. But like that, I ever do that.
This doesn't feel like the sort of game. It's too big.
Yeah, I mean, by the time I'm finished being a samurai in this, I'll be a samurai in another game, so...
See, that's the thing. This feels like a shame because the game might be so big. Because I would love to do a second playthrough in Kurosawa mode, fully in black and white, with the film grain, with the subs on.
Well, it may be a thing you can do a few years after when you've forgotten enough.
Flip it. If you can switch it, though, maybe there's like a
I bet you can.
Game Plus mode or something like that where you can go back through and do a couple of chapters and just switch it up that way.
Oh, maybe.
We need something worse than a pandemic for me to start playing games more than once.
What if you get a samurai pandemic? Where they order you to play games repeatedly at sword point.
It's the one industry that's been least affected. They're still putting these games out. That's the thing I find most heartening is that I thought Sony were going to be really ridiculous and hold these games back until they could do proper marketing campaigns. But it was really just a supply issue, it turns out, and they are.
They're loving the fact that they switched.
Yeah, software good, hardware we'll see.
Yeah, I just don't think they can. They must have looked at it and realised what a big upsurge the industry's had overall, because Sega's definitely benefited. I can tell you that. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I think Sony are literally thanking whatever gods they pray to did they switch to a state of play format. Whereas, cynically it was kind of like, oh, they're just copying Nintendo's, But
well, it's
the way forward.
It's more this whole summer of gaming that Geoff Keighley's put together, which could segue us nicely into the Unreal Engine demo that kicked off his ongoing coverage of all the new things that are going to be announced.
If you'll pardon me, that was epic.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
See what he did there? Yeah, they're an interesting company. They seem to be positioning themselves now as the dominant force in video games now that, Unreal was already widely adopted, but they're lifting the restrictions on income now. They don't ask for any money until they've made it. It's made $1 million now.
Really?
Which encourages indie developers to play with it and do interesting new things with it. And if they start making a fuck ton, do they start paying for it? I think that's an incredible way of doing it.
That's amazing. That is such a boost to innovation.
Mm. Also, a friend of mine, Matt, who I used to share a house with and who's been on here years and years ago, he's been making a map for Ark for years. He's finally got sponsorship on that, so he's had a bit of a payday.
Oh, cool.
And, he's and the thing that he continues to go on about using the Unreal Engine is just the massive asset libraries. You don't have to make your own fridge freezer now. There's loads of fridge freezers. If you really need a fridge freezer in your game, there's a selection of them.
Yeah.
So you can build games like Lego now, almost. You don't have to
import assets.
You don't have to design what a human looks like. It's all there. It's just a case of putting it together, scripting it, and acting,
libraries,
exercising some degree of authorship. It's about writing. It's a medium like television and film. It's going to take you ages to put together something like Tsushima or whatever, and that's obviously got a lot of custom assets that they develop themselves. But that's what it seems like, isn't it? It's like we're just getting to this point now, and it's like, well, there isn't a samurai game of this fidelity yet, so we'll make one. Now there is, and it's like, what other little bit of, we've got Cyberpunk coming soon. It's like another corner of
another
fiction.
session.
I want to see what Tsushima brings, though, because we've just seen little teasers. A guy in the field and he's on his horse. I'm sure there is an absolute fuck ton more out of that game, and we just haven't seen it.
I think an 18-minute showcase is fairly substantial, but I'm sure there is more to it.
If it's you're in an open area though, and they're going into details just around that, I was surprised how long they did and how little they kind of covered, because they showed an area and they went after one mission where you had to sink some boats. And that was kind of it. But in terms of whatever the story is for this game or whatever, I'm curious as to how much more there is. Because 18 minutes is nothing in a game.
There's going to be loads more to it than that.
I could spend 18 minutes just going, oh my god, look at that grass. Look at the way the bamboos flow in. Look at this scarf.
I like the way you fly off your horse. That's definitely an improvement over Assassin's Creed, because I find that all a bit clumsy unless you've got someone to assassinate off the back of a horse. Getting off it every time is a pain in the arse.
You hold down right one and then X and you jump in the direction you want to go from standing on the horse's back.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Only 70 hours in.
What point did it teach you that? I don't remember that.
It was a little pop-up at the start of the game. You know, when you first get a horse, it kind of tells you as a tip.
This is how you drive your horse.
So you have to stop your horse and carefully dismount every time, Rob, unless you've got someone to murder.
No, I just hold the button and wait for the horse to run into a rock or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain it's right one. You stand up on the saddle, holding onto the reins, and then you can jump in the direction you want. Anyway, sorry.
I didn't. Yeah, okay, all right. I learned something about Odyssey every week on here. Yeah.
Oh dear. Sorry, we were talking about the Epic reveal of the Unreal Engine, though. We mentioned the freebies, but yeah, go on. All I was going to say is it's utterly beautiful. The lighting effects are like nothing I've seen outside of real life.
They call it Lumen, don't they? It was just...
Well, this is the technology that allows them to import assets at cinema detail.
Mm.
So the whole idea is that a lot of developers waste a lot of time, or not waste a lot of time, but it's a job where they have to, if there's a Guardians of the Galaxy game and they're making that, if there's a Guardians of the Galaxy game and they're importing the assets from the movie, they'll have to go through a process of making that into something that can realistically be used in the context of a game that's optimized, Whereas now there's this Lumen tech which can apparently take that asset, do whatever it needs to do to preserve the fidelity of it, but also have it as a usable game asset.
Well, they've got two things working on it, because I was kind of watching the video again, taking notes for the first time since uni. And yeah, they've got Lumen, which is the dynamic lighting, which just is incredible. It's insane. And they've got a nanite, which they've touted as limitless geometry. Which was quite literally, I mean, they showed the whole thing where, I know before we used to see how many triangles, how many pixel triangles assets were made up of. And when they did that overlay and it showed it in a lot of noise, because there were so many, it was ridiculous. But the thing that got me was, because I knew something about the way that assets are used, and they call it LODs or something. I think it's like loss of detail, and they basically...
Level of detail, yeah.
Yeah, and they call it... They basically create an asset for far away, for medium, and for near, and it all pops in. And no matter what generation it's been, that's always the thing that's always kind of slightly made some games get a bit unstuck. You just get used to it. Things will always pop, because it's kind of like a website where you program for various screen sizes and you see that jump. You can kind of see it, but then it's very hard to get rid of it. But I think what Nanite does, it brings the thing in and it renders it at resolution rather than pixels. So you don't call in the asset, it calls in the asset's already there, it just increases the resolution as it gets nearer. Yeah. So essentially it's already at maximum quality, but it's just the amount of resolution that's used on it changes.
Yeah,
I mean, it's completely different.
This is all quite dependent on the prevalence of these super fast solid state drives, though, that will be in the new consoles.
But I think they showed that working with the last part of that demo where she starts running and leaping off. If you look at how quick those assets are loading in, that is the SSD at work. That has to be. Because how far away those assets were from when she started, that has to load in.
Yeah.
As I said, it looks really pretty.
Sorry. I went nerdy.
I was checking my texts. I don't understand this stuff or care.
I know, but I'm actually really excited about the PS5 now, though, from that little demo, because that was the hardware. It wasn't normally these technical demos. They're kind of a bit bullshitty.
Yeah, run on a chunky PC of Doom.
Admittedly, it was probably the whole design thing is designed to show it up in the best way. They designed so many crags. It depends on the amount of effort people put into things as well, because that was a really well designed level to show off the demonstration. But I just think that last sequence sold it for me. Where she
Yeah,
just
I'm
started
watching it
running
now.
and it just started flying. Because you see all of those assets are in the background, and when she starts heading towards them, they don't change. They just increase in resolution as it goes, and it's already kind of loaded in, and the bits you don't see, I don't think I see any pop-in whatsoever.
So
where
Rob,
something gets loaded up.
So someone wants to watch this, Rob. What are they? You've just pulled it up. Did you Google it? YouTube it? How have you found it?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. If you just search Unreal Engine 5.
It's insane. It's only when I started thinking about stuff like that, and I watched it, I think, like the third time, and I went, hang on. Because you're used to seeing it. It's kind of like the Spider-Man demo, where you see him running off walls and all that, and swinging super fast. And, it's all...
to prove that she's still interacting with it, and it's not just
And I heard a rumour that this was actually a demo that's playable, so it's not necessarily a built thing. So it's in-engine, and it's actually gameplay.
Yeah,
which is completely different.
He said it took 25 people about 3 or 4 months to build it. But I think basically when they show off these things, it gives you an idea of the potential of the upcoming generation.
What we might see in 4 or 5 years, Yeah,
you'll see stuff that might resemble something like this towards the end, just before we get PlayStation 6.
PlayStation 5's Ghost of Tsushima moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get the feeling that it might be sooner.
It'd be nice.
There's something about the way this is. It feels a bit different from the other technical demos where they've always, because it kind of says the same thing, but it's only when you look at what they're actually saying and the way that it's doing the things it's doing.
They're saying
different.
It's easier to work with as well, so
it seems
hopefully they'll zoom it
different,
along.
so they can achieve more for less.
But you remember, one of the relatively early PlayStation 4 games, something like Horizon Zero Dawn. I know it wasn't immediate, but that was one of those ones that really leapt ahead with the graphical capabilities and just the sheer amount of stuff going on, the billowing grass and all of that stuff. Now, that can be done pretty easily now, but to bring in the light effects and just make it feel hyper-realistic would be hyper-realistic robot dinosaurs. That's what I want. That's going to be what I want as a launch game, guys.
That's going to be the PS5 sort of super duper remake.
Yeah,
ultra realistic robot dinosaur.
So this is the other thing that's interesting. So we know Sony have got. Do you remember a couple of years ago at E3, Sony showcased 4 games: Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2. What's the one with the motorbikes? Days Gone. And one other that I think was out a while ago. Those were the only games they were prepared to talk about. Do you realise there is nothing, so far as I'm aware, outside of rumour that we know of, past the game that comes out on 17th of July from Sony? They haven't talked about a thing. We've got to that point where the stuff they didn't want to talk past, but they haven't announced anything new. What's coming up, guys?
Well, I guarantee
Final Fantasy.
you...
Sorry, was the other one?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy. Was that the other game that they showed that year?
Oh, maybe that was Squeenix. I can't remember.
Sony showed it as well.
Was it Spider-Man or God of War? Or were they already out? Or were they just about to come out? I know the one you mean, because that was cool, because they shifted the audience into all these different rooms, didn't they? Because I can't remember now. But anyway... Because that was basically when they said, look, we're not going to do like a normal conference. And that was the last one they did, I think.
That was last year. It was 2019. Sony E3 2019 game.
No, it was 2018. They weren't there last year.
Okay. Christ. So that's the last...
Final Fantasy was on there, because I know there was a live stream on there and I was bricking it.
Death Stranding. Death Stranding.
Death Stranding. No wonder we didn't remember that.
So actually, they showcased Death Stranding, Last of Us Part 2, Spider-Man and Ghost of Tsushima. So they didn't even do Days Gone because that was due for release and then they pushed it back for polish, I think. So they didn't even showcase that one. And all of that, Spider-Man, Christ, that was years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Last of Us Part 2 got pushed back and back. Death Stranding's been out 8 months. That was last autumn. And we've got nothing.
I think they're saving it.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you that the next time they show anything, and they might not show it all at once, but we know for sure there's going to be more God of War, there's going to be more Spider-Man, there's going to be more Horizon Zero Dawn.
And hopefully some more new IPs, because they've done really pretty well putting new stuff out. So a couple of sequels to the great stuff, absolutely, but fresh IPs, I love it.
I think it's about time Naughty Dog announced a new IP.
Yeah, it'd be quite interesting. Do they run 2 development teams?
Yeah, they had an Uncharted team and a Last of Us team, but Uncharted is done. So I can only
Nathan
assume
Drake is done, I think is the way they said it.
Yeah, but I reckon that they probably got enough clout. I bet they said, look, we'll do Last of Us 2 if you let us do something entirely new next time. I could totally imagine that conversation.
Yeah, something entirely new. But they seem to do a lot of modern day stuff. It'd be interesting to see them skip back maybe just 100 years, or if you see what I mean.
Yeah, or go way into the future or something. They do seem like contemporary settings is their stomping ground usually, isn't it?
But there's only 2 themes, so yeah, I'd love to see something new out of them. They don't half know how to tell a story.
Hell yeah, yeah. No, I'd be very. I really hope they get to do something different going forward, because they've got such a pedigree. All they have to do is put that branding on, and people will be like, "Oh right, okay, this is going to take up a fair chunk of my life."
Oh, I suppose there's also Crash Bandicoot.
Oh yeah, well they could do like a super realistic.
Still took up a chunk of your life,
like Cats, like the recent Cats movie. But
God, Bandicoots.
What if they call it The Last of Bandicoots?
Oh dear. None of that sounds like a good option. But yeah, what I'm kind of saying is I reckon we're going to get some pretty exciting announcements out of Sony. So Microsoft did some announcements as well. So we brushed on the Valhalla gameplay show. Now, I really rushed through that because, frankly, I was falling asleep. But Rob, you spent a bit of time looking at some of it. Was there anything that particularly stood out for you on the Microsoft show?
Well, the first thing that I found notable was that Bloodlines 2 seems to be getting wrapped into a next-gen release. Mostly on account of it needing more polish. But, what they showed was a very sort of scripted trailer. But it looked like they must have got some more... Well, they've definitely put a bit more work in on the environments. It doesn't seem quite as flat as it did when they demoed it last E3.
So we're saying it might be a cross-gen or next-gen only?
I think it could very well be a cross-gen title, but it will definitely be in the launch lineup of the new consoles. I reckon. It's a game that will work across probably any sort of low to mid-end PC all the way up to, probably have some bells and whistles at the top end too. But I don't know. I'd be interested to see how that game turns out, because by today's standards, it was a very shonky piece of crap.
Yeah, sorry, when you say Bloodlines, so that was Vampire the Masquerade. That's that one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, so, it's very promising, and it's got a lot of the guys that worked on the original, but I'm sensing like a little bit of an Outer Worlds thing with this, where, it's like something we remember fondly, but maybe cannot quite pay the checks at the end of the day, sort of thing.
Don't get too excited, and it might be all right.
Yeah, that's it. Like if you're sort of a bit of a, once you've finished all the launch lineup games, and you're like, you need something to justify the cost of your new machine, like it might fit the bill there.
It's really weird because on that showcase they had the first game they put out, and it was the weird sort of first-person shooter with the kind of water effects. It was very devoid of any colour. But that was the only one that truly looked slightly next-gen. The rest looked like they could have been on a Series X. Because if you've seen an Xbox Series X, it is quite a beefy bit of kit for a console.
Yeah, it's a step up from the Pro, I understand.
Yeah, but that was really weird, because I think me and you talked about that, Rob, briefly. I would say that game was the only one that looked even remotely... What
was that called?
I can't remember. I'm trying to look it up for the life of me.
There was a first-person shooter with dinosaurs called Second Extinction that...
I don't know if it was dinosaurs in it, but it was the one where you had the guy with the gun and he was going through the swampy bit, and he switched to a sword, and it looked like there was Romans in it and stuff and other bits and pieces. But that was done by one guy in a Chinese studio.
Right, yeah, no, I don't know what that is.
One man and his computer.
I might have just gone, oh, that's whatever. I don't know.
I kind of turned off because it was just shooty. Grayed out Killzone.
The only other game that really stuck with me was Medium, which is by Team Bloober.
Yes, that stuck with me too.
These are the guys that recently did the Blair Witch game. But before that, they did a game called Observer, which was like a sort of cyberpunk horror thing with Rutger Hauer in it doing the voices. Was the voice of the main character. And that was a cool game. It was a bit of a walking sim, and like you were just going around and sort of investigating bodies and going around this apartment block, but it was super immersive. And they're like a Polish studio, I think.
Yeah.
And apparently Blair Witch was all right if you're into that sort of thing. That they know they're horror. This one's got like a bit of a psychological aspect to it.
This one's I'd say it's a spiritual successor to Silent Hill. It's even got the composer from the Silent Hill games on board.
Yeah, they made a big fuss about him working with their music guy because they're big fans of that.
I'm really happy though, because it seems like that kind of game is back. Because Konami don't know what they're doing really anymore, and they've got so many staples of titles that were their mainstay, and they just allowed it to crumble. Yeah, I think. Hence the meme saying Konami hates games, but I just think they needed to bring out something, and these guys seem to know what they're doing, and the story seems quite compelling from the trailer. I might be having a look.
Well, these first parties, Sony and Microsoft, have great big massive wallets, and I think it's great even if they're not outright buying studios to arrange publishing deals that can create these kinds of high-profile collaborations and actually lift up some of these smaller devs who clearly have the talent and passion and have cool ideas that we don't get very often.
I totally agree. I mean,
it's always got to be open world this or sequel that.
You mentioned Ori and Will-O-the-Wisp, the second one. That game got delayed because Microsoft approached the studio and said, would you like some more money to add some more polish? And they went, hell yeah. And Microsoft just gave them a shit ton of money to give the game a bit more polish.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. I don't know how often I hear about that. But it's just, if that's happening more and more, I think that's amazing. And it would just make the games a lot more interesting. The people feel as though they've got a bit more freedom with them. And it doesn't feel like you're selling off your soul to a publisher when you're making these things. So you kind of, you have the creativity, the vision, and you retain that sort of, it's my kind of IP. And they go, yeah, that's cool. Publish it on our platform, maybe others if you want. Have some money. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
It's good. And if it stops all these games coming out every week, then it suits me down to the ground. I definitely noticed there seems to be a massive fall off at the moment, and I don't know if it's just because we're on the kind of end of a generation, but even a lot of like the PC sort of indie stuff, it's all dried up big time.
I think there's a release today. The day we are recording, 22nd of May, today.
Oh yeah.
Making a big splash is Maneater, the Shark PG. And I'm waiting for the reviews, if I'm honest, because it's £35 on PlayStation Store. It is £23 something on CD Keys. I kind of feel that feels like a Switch game to me. And I've not checked if it's on Switch, but it looks fun, but I need reviews.
If you could team up with your buddies and take out some humans, then it kind of goes up a little bit in my book.
Yes.
If it's like multiplayer, let's all go around and murder some people as sharks.
I don't think it is.
I know. That's why
I think it is definitely not that. No, it's rocking a 70 for PC on Metacritic, 68 for PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
no scores for Xbox yet. Oh no, 76 on Xbox.
PC game. In fact, I think the embargo. We're recording at about 3:00 in the afternoon. I think the embargo must have been 2:00 today. So the
it's all up
reviews
there.
are out. Man-Eater review, the best shark game ever.
Well,
Yeah, it's not that
praise.
highly rated. I will have a study, and I'll probably wait for the price drop and pick it up when it's £15 and have a good giggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a day one game, is it? Unless you're really starved for things to eat.
Well,
Or
I'm
you've got
not,
a big
because
shot.
I have a pre-day one
So
game.
to speak.
You have a pre-day one game.
I have an early access game.
Oh yeah, you have been playing a game. You've been testing a game, haven't you?
I have been playing it. I've come across a couple of bugs, but in general, less than I have done on a brand new release from Bethesda, frankly.
Oh, that's encouraging.
So I have been playing No, it's not Kingdom Come Deliverance. What the hell have I been playing?
It's Mount and Blade, isn't it?
Thank you, Mount and Blade 2. Good lord, my brain suddenly just exited my head. Mount and Blade 2, Bannerlord. I've done about 22 hours. It's out in Steam Early Access, and it is I think I've spoken before on the podcast about the pirate game I want, which I was kind of hoping from Skull and Bones, which is sail the seas and, I don't know, pirate ships if you want to, or pick up treasure, build up your crew, build up your ship. And you're doing that, but you're not doing it out on the seas. You're doing it in a medieval-esque continent with 6 or 7 warring kingdoms, and you start on your own, a man or a woman on a horse, or not on a horse, depending on the background you've picked for yourself. And you go around and you level up RPG style and you build up a party. So you might recruit half a dozen peasants, and then you'll hunt down some looters, and your peasants will get more experience, and you'll get your loot. And I've gotten to the point where I'm now at the head of a 100-strong mercenary army, and I've sworn fealty to one of the kingdoms, and I'm joining them in these massive sort of 500-a-side battles, commanding men on the battlefield, besieging castles, looting stuff, selling it, entering tournaments to fight for the
bloody
prizes. It's still lacking in a main story, but the original game never had much of a story. It's a go out there in this totally open world and be what you want. You can be a merchant prince or a mercenary leader. I'm planning to betray the lord that I've sworn fealty to shortly, say fuck you and build my own kingdom, but I want to have a bigger mercenary band first. But you recruit companions from the taverns and put them at the heads of separate armies. It's really open. It's great fun. The
So
combat's
you write your own tale, kind of thing.
exactly that. Yeah, it's a proper role play game.
Wow.
In my opinion, it's done by a Turkish development house. The original, I think, was basically done by a Turkish couple, and they've now built, I think, probably the biggest gaming studio in Turkey out of this. They put out Mount and Blade 2, and I'm having a whale of a time with it. So
how do you control? It's first person, right?
it's
So how
first
do you
person on the
control-
battlefield.
So how do you control your armies at the same time as fighting?
So, for example, you'll have a hotkey. So you can basically, there's various, on the function keys. So, for example, I can press, if I press 1, that will select my infantry. 2, my archers, 3, my mounted infantry, 4, my, mounted archers, for example. So if I press 2, I could say, archers, go over there, and wait until enemy contact, fire at will, all of that, hold fire. I can then set my I generally set them at the top of a slope if I've got an army attacking. Put the archers at the top of the hill, put the infantry below, form a shield wall, send the mounted cavalry off to the side in the woodland to flank, all of that stuff. So you're first person, you're like the commander of the battle. You go out and you fight and you can get involved, or you can sit back and let them get stuck in. It's really quite complex. I'm playing it on easy because I want to feel like a god. A proper
fair
battle
enough.
god. But I still now and again get my army completely routed and get sold to slavers, where I'm shipped around for a while until I can pay the ransom. It's really good. It's really in depth, and they're only going to add more to it. I jumped in, on early access. I've got a good feel for it. I've scratched an itch, and I can leave the house again and go and do some things, which is nice. So I'm doing less gaming, but it got me through I can't even go out anywhere kind of vibe, and I've loved it. I think I'm probably going to sit and wait for it to progress a bit more, see what patches, see what enhancements they do. But it's an excellent game. I'm genuinely enjoying it.
How is the combat? It looks very like airy, sort of a bit floaty looking.
If you
on the video
go
I'm
as a
watching.
lancer, it's really quite good fun. You've got to get up speed on your horse, couch your lance, and you can do superb damage by hitting them with the tip of your lance or spear. The current character I'm playing is sword and shield mostly, with javelins for short distance ranged. You can be a crossbowman as you push up the armor. The combat itself is not very good, but the game isn't about man-to-man combat. It's about commanding armies and building kingdoms.
I think I've got the first one.
Oh, don't bother. It's so old and janky and dated. To be honest, the new one is not a pretty game. It's about the gameplay possibilities of commanding armies and kingdoms.
Okay.
I put a link on there to the YouTube video, the 2018 campaign teaser, and it was kind of okay. I was like, oh, okay, I could see what you mean. You can pick the armour and everything. Go in there, you start fighting people. There's a bit where he's got an axe, and then like 15 people just pile in to this little ravine behind him. And there's another scene where he rides into this quagmire of people. Like,
Yes,
I was just like, holy shit.
This is why I stopped my character who was mounted, because I kept rushing ahead and then suddenly being in the middle of the enemy army and forgetting to command my men because I was panicking. So I now stand behind the ranks and get stuck in if I need to. I'm a bit more of a passive commander now.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying it. It really scratches an itch for me that's been there for a while. It's totally different to the Assassin's Creed vibe of open world. It's somewhere. It's not
It's
dissimilar
like
to the
school
Total
PC
War.
sort of. It's almost like old school PC gaming.
In many ways, yeah. They put Warband out on consoles, but certainly the various complexity of commands, you could probably put it on some sort of wheel. But no, it's a PC game, definitely.
Cool. Yeah, it wasn't really on my radar at all, but I will keep an eye out. I'm not a big fan of early access, I'm afraid, but I'll definitely add it to my radar.
Have you finished Final Fantasy VII, Marcus?
I haven't yet, no, because I've been rearranging the room. Well, tidying up. I realised I've been, like, neglecting my chores, so...
And Rob, you're clearly still Odyssey, so...
Yeah, I'm still playing Odyssey. I'm trying to make a bit more headway with Disco Elysium. It's really just a time thing, and can I be asked to sit at my desk on my computer thing. Same reason I haven't made much progress with Ori. It's like I just can't play anything but Odyssey because it just looks so amazing, and I can sit on my sofa and to give you an idea of where I'm at. I've done the Olympic stuff. I've just got to Viosha. It starts with a B, but it's pronounced Viosha, I think. And I've just gone to see the general guy who I saw right at the beginning of the game, who's not best happy with me after the outcome of that little scenario, to be vague. He sent me the task of killing 4 different generals. One of which I've dispatched. I've got 3 more. And yeah, I'm not sure what's next. I don't really get the sense of how close I am. I'm in episode 7, which is meaningless because some episodes last for an hour and some of them last for several years. So I just don't really know. But I've put in about nearly 70 hours so far. And I've been doing as I've been getting close to them, I've been doing the Lost Tales of Greece quests, which I understand was free DLC that came out shortly after the game came out.
Yeah, I played through those. I don't remember any of them, but they came out pretty rapidly after. But yeah, I do like the fact that free DLC and enhancements get added to an already massive game. It's almost like they saw what CD Projekt Red did with The Witcher and kind of went, oh. Maybe we shouldn't sell it. Maybe we should just appear to be proactively supporting our customers.
Yeah, well, it's all about goodwill, isn't it? And treating the customer nice. And Witcher laid down the gauntlet there and set the standard. Yeah. And so they followed suit. They put out some some of those quest lines are pretty good, and they don't feel half-assed at all. There's some that are a bit funny. There was one I went to where you're supposed to help there's three little quest line bits, and you've got to sort of help them out, and they're all just complete idiots. There's a guy who thinks that his helmet makes him immune to fire, so you set him on fire and he just burns and dies. There's another one whose horse thinks it's Pegasus, leaps off a cliff with it, dies. That was quite funny. And then there's some that were quite cool where you revisit old flames and characters that popped up like earlier in the game.
Yeah.
And they seem like appropriate to seek out geographically as you go around. I've sort of done a circuit now, because I sort of went all the way around the islands, did a bit of Crete, or Crete as it was called then, found the Minotaur, got killed by the Minotaur. I've still not killed the Minotaur. I'm going to come back and deal with that later.
The Minotaur's a bastard.
Yeah, he's like 2-stage fight, and you just I've met the Sphinx. Didn't have to fight the Sphinx because I answered all the questions right. So
have you done the Gorgon?
Is that like a never-ending story thing?
No, it's this whole Atlantis quest line that pops up sort of about, I don't know, over halfway in.
It's quite nice because so Assassin's Creed mythology has this like previous master race. I can't remember the details. The race that came before the humans, and what they've done is they've taken the Greek mythological creatures and explained their existence by this Assassin's Creed type lore. I quite like it.
Yeah, okay. It's really cool because you've already got your sort of like world quests. And then you've got your conquest going on top between the Athenians and the Spartans, and then you've got your cultists layer, and then on top of that they then add the sort of supernatural mythological layer to it, and it's just like that article in Eurogamer. I did actually read that in the end. It's just like fun explosions going off all the time. On a macro level as you play it, and then these huge revelations and things that just get added into the mix, and it just keeps your interest. So, as much as I mentioned earlier, I said I think it's a ludicrously long game. The length of the game is justified by the amount of content in there. They've just decided to make one massive game instead of 8 smaller ones.
But the point is, you don't have to do all of these quests. This is the thing.
No, you don't.
And we're playing it on hard, so you have to get to level to an extent to get to the end game. But I suspect playing on a lower difficulty setting, you can ignore a lot of these quests. It's you can just play the main game and clear a few places out and play the story. You can probably do it in 50, 60 hours rather than the 100 odd I spent on it. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I've got invested into all the systems, and so I won't be satisfied. And I won't even go into a cave unless I find the thing that gives me the ability point. And I'll go round the fucker 3 or 4 times until I find that broken wall or that little chest thing that was in the way of a little hole in the wall to slip through. All of them, because I feel like there's such good value. As soon as you get in one of those caves, it's like, wow, I'm like playing Tomb Raider now.
Yeah, it's puzzles.
Yeah, like little puzzles. So you get like there's a whole side of the game you'll miss if you just walk around and go, oh, well, fuck me, there's nothing here. There's something in there, and it's worth getting because it's a whole ability point that you wouldn't have otherwise. So, that's wicked. And also the mercenary thing, I'm up to tier 3 now, which basically gives you half price on all your upgrades when you go to the blacksmith. So now I've got all my gear pretty much up to my level now. So that's
Happy
good.
Days.
Yeah, I just need to get some better weapons because I'm still changing through my weapons. I've stuck with my snakeskin armour. I want to get the pirate set because that's the only other like assassin set that I've seen. Just to see what that does because I know that's got an ability tied to it that gives you another cool bonus. And then I might respec slightly and move away from the poison a bit, maybe switch to fire, see what that's like. But those are the sort of like things you can ponder.
You're fucking loving this. I can see by the little glint in your eye. It's talking about all the builds.
It's absolutely eating my soul, this game.
It's quite funny, actually.
Yeah.
Because Assassin's Creed has always been one of those games you'll get to when you haven't got anything else to play. The whole, you've always played through the Assassin's Creed games, but it's always, oh yeah, that's on my backlog. But I know for a fact Valhalla will not be backlog.
No, I don't think so. Odyssey was like my little pot of gold at the end, like to get to eventually. Unfortunately, world events have got me to it sooner than I thought, but I'm glad I have, and I'm now up to date, and I fully intend, for as long as they keep making games of this quality, to stay on top of it. The thing that I was, because my friend Adam, who's got very similar tastes, he's on the Game Dump, and he was asking, like, so is it 300 the game? And I was like, well, it's kind of a sequel, but it's also a bit Clash of the Titans. And also, like, I know what his taste is, and I think the one fundamental thing that I would take away from this is that it is the most successful real-time application of RPG mechanics. And Origins was almost there, but the fact that you're able to sort of do all this cool stuff, be a complete fucking badass, get the sort of vibe that you're like in a real-time action game, and also be triggering off all these abilities and shit, that is just the best thing for me. And having that nerdery with all the gear and all the different... all the abilities are just wicked. Like, they all have a significant impact. Or don't, but you can try them out. But anyway, yeah, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is very, very good. It's probably one of my favourite games ever. There we go.
Now, there's a good note to finish.
And also, thanks for the tip with playing it on hard and doing it the Assassin's way, because I think that's probably enhanced it even more for me. So
credit to Kotaku.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I also told my friend Adam, who was thinking about playing it, I've said I've got to pay this forward, because if anyone ever talks to me about playing that game, just read that, because it won't just give you advice on how to play. It will actually probably make you want to play it more as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, on that bombshell, on that fucking annoying drill noise, we'll call it there, I reckon.
Happy days.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks for listening to the Not Playing Podcast, part of the Not Listening Podcast Network, where you can also find the Not Watching Podcast, where Marcus and I talk about movies and TV, and the Not Listening Podcast, where you can hear Adam, Ash and Will talk about all kinds of nonsensical nonsense. You can email us at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet out or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. You can find the show notes for all our shows at notlistening.co.uk. And if you like what you've heard here, please do leave us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, stay safe out there.
To agree, 'cause I suck at Call of Duty. There's no hope for me. I suck at Call of Duty. I suck at Call of Duty. There's no hope for me. I suck at Call of Duty.
Groovy.
See how it does.
Whoa!
Sorry, that was a parcel I've got coming. One sec.
Everything happened at once. I'm watching this video now on Mountain Blade 2. It's called Epic Massive Battle.
Sorry, parcel.
Flandria versus
Okay,
Battania.
person on the left, please.
Hello,
It's just insane. People just creating these massive old school battles in rows and rows and rows of people.
Yeah. Although there's an online mode as well, but I've not touched that. I'm a single player
God.
guy in general. If I want to play online, it's back on Overwatch. Anyway, right. I'm assuming you're cutting that stuff out, Rob.
Yeah. And
What is
have
that
I
noise?
gone quiet?
No, there's a drilling type noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a drilling type noise.
Oh, that'll be why.
Oh, okay. That's okay,
Yeah,
because
it's
you were doing the
outside,
same.
then.
This doesn't exist. I was thinking, Rob, are you having a toilet moment or something? And we just don't know.
Sorry.
No, I'll hopefully be able to isolate, get rid of that with noise cancellation, but there is a fucking drilling outside, which is...
I think
And
now.
I'm not shutting my window because
I think we should keep this going. We should follow you outside as you tell them to fuck off. Just keep it in the podcast.
Yeah, maybe this is an outtake at the end.